Welcome back, and will you look at this? This is the most pristine part of the watershed, and looking down into the valley from above, it feels like we're miles and miles away from civilization. This is what most of the watershed would have looked like before settlers arrived. Much of this area includes very old trees, including huge hemlocks, black cherry, and oak species. And there are a lot of trees in here, but when considering the entire sub-watershed, the forest cover still falls short of what Environment Canada identifies as the bare minimum. There's only 28.5% coverage, and the target is 30%. And when there isn't enough vegetation, erosion becomes a problem. And that means the water is full of mud and pollutants. It's also in this area that Ancaster Creek and Sulphur Creek merge to become what's called Coldwater Creek. Now, historically this water was cold, but it has warmed up because of human impact. It's colder than other creeks because the source water is spring-fed. If the builder gets their way and the Garner Marsh is destroyed and replaced with a stormwater pond, then much of that source water will be left to warm in the sun while sitting in the pond. And that means even warmer water downstream. Among the at-risk fish species are rainbow and fantail darter, brassy minnow, and 3 kinds of dace. Further disturbances upstream would be a huge blow to these sensitive species. In 2017, starting in this section and working downstream, a team from the McMaster Biology Department established 5 biodiversity monitoring stations that will assess changes over time. If you've ever been on the rail trail through Dundas, then you know this spot. Officially, it's called Powers Crossing, and it gives you a beautiful upstream view of the creek. This area was once the Cold Spring Valley Nature Sanctuary and owned by the Royal Botanical Gardens until 1963. It was sold to McMaster and they paved over it, creating this monstrous parking lot called Parking Lot M. But there are big plans proposed to return this area to nature. The vision is to tear up all this pavement and recreate the marsh that was here, but with an artistic flair. It would turn all of this into a wetland that looks like this. Can you see the outline of a monarch butterfly? If accomplished, it would make Mac the first university to restore a wetland. That would be a huge accomplishment and something to be immensely proud of. But it would be tragic to have innovative restoration efforts at this end of the creek while allowing destructive development at the headwaters. This is the edge of the property where the creek runs today. As we've seen, this water is all connected and the myriad negative impacts upstream will accumulate here. This area around McMaster is also where our creek intersects with Spencer Creek, right there. This is also a very important area for the breeding of snapping turtles. Over the past several years, the Royal Botanical Gardens, along with several other local organizations, have invested a lot of effort to increase the local turtle population. But loss of natural habitat, invasive species and pathogens, and water contamination in the area are all factors working against them. The McMaster Marsh restoration would be a huge boost, but again, counteracting all this hard work here with destructive development upstream ignores the interconnectedness of the ecosystem. And here we are back at Cootes Paradise. That's the mouth of Ancaster Creek right behind me. After meandering through Ancaster, then tumbling over the escarpment into Dundas for some 13 kilometers, battling an endless barrage of stressors, Ancaster Creek has finally arrived here. It started quietly underground in the Garner Marsh, and now its waters will flow into Burlington Bay, Lake Ontario, and beyond. Before today, many of us might not have understood the impact our society has on water. But maybe, after taking this journey with me and following the flow of Ancaster Creek, you've started to gain an appreciation for it. We go about our busy lives, working hard to survive in a challenging world, and doing our best to raise our kids and give them a bright future. And we don't think much about the water flowing through our community. And it is the future we should be thinking about. We need water to survive. We need wetlands like the Garner Marsh to mitigate the extreme storms we are so often experiencing now. We need the biodiversity of the marsh because it forms the base of the food web that supports us. We need all those things, but the Garner Marsh and all of Ancaster Creek need us too. They need us to preserve and protect them. They can't speak up for themselves, but they have supported the peoples of this area for thousands of years, and now it's time for us to repay that debt. Today, they need your voice to speak up and say no. No to their destruction, and no to more pollution in the water. No to building on wetlands. No to endless sprawl development. We need wetlands, not warehouses. Let's work together to save the Garner Marsh.